The stars twinkled against the vast darkness of space as the USS Defiance glided silently toward its destination. Captain Eric Winters stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on the main view screen. The massive ship was humanity's pride, a perfect blend of diplomatic vessel and potential warship, though today it traveled with most of its weapon systems dormant. "Captain, we're approaching the coordinates for the meeting point," said Lieutenant Commander Samantha Ross from her tactical station. Her voice carried a hint of tension. Eric nodded. "Time to make history. This is our first contact with the Drakari Imperium. Let's hope they're in a friendly mood." The bridge crew exchanged nervous glances. Everyone knew the stories about the Drakari, a warrior race that controlled nearly a quarter of this sector of the galaxy. They had conquered dozens of alien civilizations over centuries, adding each to their growing empire. The Drakari respected only one thing: strength. "Ambassador Bennett is ready in the diplomatic chamber," Commander Lisa Wright reported. The ship's executive officer looked as concerned as everyone else. "Good. Tell her we're almost there." Eric straightened his uniform. "Remember, we're here as representatives of Earth and all human colonies. We come in peace, but we will not be intimidated." The Defiance had been specially configured for this mission. While it was one of humanity's most advanced vessels, most of its weapon systems remained offline, and they carried a smaller crew than usual. Admiral Douglas had been clear. They wanted to appear friendly, not threatening. "Sir, I'm detecting 3 vessels approaching," Lieutenant Jordan Ellis called from the sensor station. "Configuration matches Drakari warships based on the intelligence briefings." The main screen shifted to show 3 massive vessels approaching. Each was at least twice the size of the Defiance, covered in what appeared to be heavy armor plating, and bristling with weapon ports. They were dark gray with red markings that resembled claw marks slashed across their hulls. "They certainly like to make an impression," Eric said quietly. "Incoming transmission," Communications Officer Patty Miller announced. On screen. The view screen changed to show a large reptilian face. The Drakari had gray-green scaled skin, bright yellow eyes with vertical pupils and rows of small horns that ran from the top of their heads down their backs. This one wore ornate armor with countless small symbols etched into the metal, presumably marks of rank or accomplishment. "I am Supreme Commander Vexarn of the Drakari Imperium," the alien said in a deep, rumbling voice. The universal translator handled the conversion smoothly. "You have entered Drakari space. Identify yourselves." Captain Winters stepped forward. "I am Captain Eric Winters of the Earth vessel USS Defiance. We come in peace as representatives of humanity, seeking diplomatic relations with the Drakari Imperium." Vexarn's eyes narrowed. "Humans. We have heard of your kind. You control a small region of space beyond the Cygnus Arm." The Drakari commander's mouth twisted in what might have been a smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth. "We accept your request for a meeting. Prepare to receive our diplomatic delegation." The screen went dark. "That seemed too easy, Lieutenant," Commander Ross said. Eric nodded. "Stay alert. Ambassador Bennett should—" "Captain," Lieutenant Ellis interrupted. "Energy readings spiking from all 3 Drakari vessels. They're powering weapons." "Shields up," Eric ordered. "Red alert." The bridge erupted into activity as warning klaxons blared throughout the ship. Before the Defiance could raise its shields, fully brilliant green beams struck the ship from all 3 Drakari vessels. The bridge shook violently. Sparks flew from several consoles and crew members were thrown from their stations. "Shields at 40%, Ross reported, clinging to her console. 2 more incoming." Another barrage hit the Defiance before it could maneuver away. The lights flickered, and the ship groaned under the assault. "Shields critical. Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7, Ross called out. "Emergency force fields holding." Eric grabbed the command chair as the ship shuddered again. "Return fire, defensive pattern only. Target their weapons systems. 3. Defiance's limited weapons came online, firing precise shots at the nearest Drakari vessel. The shots connected but seemed to do minimal damage against the alien ship's heavy armor. "Sir, they're launching boarding shuttles," Ellis shouted over the chaos. Eric's mind raced. They were outgunned and unprepared for a full assault. Engineering, what's the status of our jump drive? Chief Engineer Kyle Reeves's voice came through, punctuated by the sounds of shouting and damage control efforts. We can make one jump, Captain, but I can't guarantee where we'll end up with this damage. They're targeting our engines, Ross warned. Captain, Commander Wright called, her face pale. Ambassador Bennett and her team were in the diplomatic reception area, Section 12. That whole deck was hit directly. Eric felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. Get security teams there immediately, all hands, prepare to repel boarders. The ship rocked again as another hit connected. Sir, Communications Officer Miller spoke up. We're being hailed by the Drakari flagship. On screen, Supreme Commander Vexarn appeared again, looking pleased with himself. Captain Winters, your vessel is impressive for a diplomatic craft, but clearly inferior to Drakari might. Eric's jaw tightened. You attacked without provocation. This was meant to be a peaceful mission. Vexarn made a dismissive gesture. Peace is for equals. Your ship entered our space with minimal defenses and a skeleton crew. In Drakari culture, this signals one of two things: tremendous confidence or tremendous weakness. His yellow eyes gleamed. We have determined which it is. We came in peace, Eric insisted, even as another explosion rocked the ship. And you will serve in submission, Vexarn replied. We have already captured your diplomatic team. If this is the best weapon your species has to offer, your civilization will make a fine addition to our collection of servant races. The screen split to show a holding cell where Ambassador Olivia Bennett and several other diplomats were being held at gunpoint by Drakari soldiers. Surrender your vessel, Captain, Vexarn demanded, or watch your diplomats die, one by one. Eric's mind raced through options, none of them good. The Defiance wasn't ready for this fight. Not in its current configuration. They needed time. He made his decision. All hands, prepare for emergency jump, he ordered. But sir, the ambassador, Commander Wright began. We can't help them if we're captured too, Eric said grimly. We'll be back for them. He turned back to the screen. This isn't over, Vexarn. The Drakari commander laughed. It was over before it began, human. Run if you must. We will find your homeworld soon enough. Jump. Now, Captain Winters ordered. The damaged starship shuddered as its engines flared. The Defiance disappeared in a flash of light, barely escaping as another barrage of Drakari weapons fire passed through the space it had occupied just seconds before. As the ship tumbled through the emergency jump, Captain Winters held onto his chair, his face set in grim determination. The Drakari had seriously misjudged humanity if they thought this was the end. They had wanted to see strength. Soon they would see the full might of what humans could do when provoked. And they would learn that humans never abandoned their own. The USS Defiance limped through space, trailing debris and venting atmosphere from several hull breaches. Emergency repair teams worked frantically to seal the damaged sections. Inside the ship, medical staff treated the wounded while damaged. Control parties fought electrical fires. On the bridge, Captain Eric Winters stared at the status reports with a grim expression. 12 crew members dead, 38 injured. Ambassador Bennett and her entire diplomatic team captured. The ship's main power systems were operating at 40% capacity. Status report, Eric demanded, his voice hoarse from shouting orders during the attack. Commander Lisa Wright checked her tablet. We've sealed most of the hull breaches. Life support is stable. Engineering reports the main engines need major repairs. She hesitated. Sir, the crew is asking about Ambassador Bennett and the diplomatic team. Eric's jaw tightened. Tell them we're going back for our people, no matter what. With respect, Captain, Lieutenant Commander Samantha Ross interjected from Tactical. The Defiance is in no shape for another confrontation with the Drakari. Those warships outgunned us 3-1, and that was before we took all this damage. I'm aware of our situation, Commander, Eric replied. He pressed a button on his chair. Bridge to engineering. Chief Reeves, I need options. Chief Engineer Kyle Reeves's voice came through, background noises of repair work nearly drowning him out. Captain, I need to speak with you privately. Can you come down to engineering? Eric exchanged puzzled looks with Wright. On my way. 20 minutes later, Eric stood in the main engineering section, staring in disbelief at what Chief Reeves was showing him. You're telling me the Defiance has been hiding this capability all along? Eric asked, examining the detailed schematics on the display. Kyle nodded, his hands stained with coolant fluid and grease. Yes, sir. Project Phoenix. Only myself and Admiral Douglas knew the full extent of the ship's capabilities. He pointed to several sections of the schematic. The Defiance was built as a transformable vessel. What looks like a diplomatic cruiser can reconfigure into a full-fledged warship. Eric studied the schematics more closely. Hidden weapon ports, advanced shield generators, experimental propulsion systems, all concealed within the ship's hull, waiting to be activated. Why wasn't I informed of this before the mission? Eric demanded. Admiral's orders, Kyle said with a shrug. The mission to meet the Drakari was twofold. Genuine diplomatic outreach, but also a test to see how they would react to what appeared to be a minimally armed human vessel. A test that got 12 of my crew killed and our ambassador captured, Eric said bitterly. Kyle's expression softened. I'm sorry, Captain, but now we have the advantage of surprise. The Drakari think they've seen what humanity is capable of. They're wrong. Eric considered this. How long to complete the transformation? 3 days for full combat readiness, Kyle replied. Less if we focus on essential systems first. Make it 2 days, Eric ordered. And keep this between us for now. I need to contact Admiral Douglas. Back in his quarters, Eric connected a secure channel to Outpost Delta 9, the nearest human military installation. Admiral Douglas appeared on the screen, his weathered face grave. Captain Winters, I've received your preliminary report. The Drakari situation is worse than we feared. Sir, with all due respect, why wasn't I informed about the Defiance's true capabilities? Eric asked. The Admiral sighed. Need to know basis, Captain. We needed genuine diplomatic reactions from your crew. The Drakari can detect deception. They've evolved to sense fear and lies. If you and your crew believed you were on a standard diplomatic mission with limited defenses, the Drakari would believe it too. And now Ambassador Bennett and her team are paying the price, Eric said. A calculated risk, Douglas admitted. But not a total loss. We've learned the Drakari only respect strength. Diplomacy alone won't work with them. He leaned forward. Chief Reeves has briefed you on Project Phoenix? Eric nodded. He has. But even with the Defiance at full combat capability, we're still outnumbered. Not necessarily, Douglas replied. Intelligence has been monitoring Drakari communications. They've made enemies throughout this sector, species they've conquered who might join us against a common foe. Eric raised an eyebrow. You're suggesting we build a coalition? Exactly. While Chief Reeves prepares the Defiance, your tactical team should identify potential allies. The Admiral's expression hardened. You have my authorization for a rescue mission, Captain. Show the Drakari what human strength truly means. After ending the transmission, Eric called a meeting with his senior officers. He revealed the truth about the Defiance and outlined their new mission. Lieutenant Jordan Ellis from Intelligence spoke up after reviewing the data. Sir, I've been analyzing the Drakari communications we intercepted during our escape. There's a pattern in their encryption that I might be able to crack. With more time, I could access their battle plans, maybe even locate where they're holding Ambassador Bennett. You have 48 hours, Eric told him. Commander Wright, I want a rescue plan drawn up. Commander Ross, begin tactical simulations for our new weapon systems. Yes, sir, both officers responded. Meanwhile, in the Drakari flagship, Ambassador Olivia Bennett sat in a holding cell with 4 other human diplomats. Despite her torn uniform and the bruise on her cheek, she maintained a dignified posture. They're trying to break us, she said quietly to the others. Don't give them the satisfaction. The cell door hissed open, and Supreme Commander Vexarn entered, flanked by guards. Ambassador Bennett, I trust your accommodations are adequate? Olivia didn't flinch under his yellow gaze. Kidnapping diplomatic representatives is an act of war, Commander. Vexarn made a sound that might have been laughter. War requires worthy opponents. Your ship fled at the first sign of battle. Don't underestimate humans, Olivia warned. We've faced extinction-level threats before and survived. We adapt. We overcome. Brave words from a prisoner, Vexarn said dismissively. Soon you will be presented before the leaders of all subjugated worlds in the Drakari Imperium, living proof of humanity's weakness. After Vexarn left, Olivia turned to her fellow diplomats. Listen carefully, she whispered. Every moment. We're here as an opportunity to gather intelligence. Watch the guard rotations. Note their technology. Learn everything you can. One of the younger diplomats looked skeptical. Ambassador, do you really think Captain Winters is coming back for us? Olivia's expression was resolute. I know he is. And when he does, the Drakari will learn a painful lesson about humanity. Back on the Defiance, transformation had begun. Hidden panels in the hull slid open to reveal weapon ports. Engineering teams worked around the clock to bring advanced systems online. The ship that had appeared diplomatic and defenseless was becoming something else entirely. In his quarters, Eric studied the faces of his captured diplomatic team. He placed his hand on the screen, a silent promise to the missing crew. Hold on, he whispered. We're coming. The USS Defiance looked like a different ship after 2 days of intense work. Hidden weapon ports now lined its hull. Its engines glowed with new power. The bridge buzzed with activity as crew members tested systems that none of them knew existed. Before Captain Eric Winters walked around the bridge, watching his crew work with renewed purpose. The shock of the attack had turned to determination. Every person on the ship was focused on one goal, rescuing their captured comrades and showing the Drakari what humans were truly capable of. Captain, Lieutenant Jordan Ellis called from his station. I've cracked their communication codes. The Drakari are holding Ambassador Bennett and the diplomatic team on their command station in the Praetus system. Eric nodded. Good work. What else have you found? Sir, it seems the Drakari have recently conquered the Solari, a highly advanced species from the neighboring sector. Jordan pulled up images of tall, slender aliens with pale blue skin and large, almond-shaped eyes. According to these reports, the Solari still have a resistance movement operating in secret. Commander Lisa Wright looked up from her tactical display. Potential allies? Exactly what I was thinking, Eric replied. Set course for the Solari home system. Best speed. As the Defiance prepared to jump, Chief Engineer Kyle Reeves called from engineering. Captain, the main weapons are online. Shield capacity is at 90%, and I've got a surprise for you. His voice had a hint of pride. The Phantom Drive is operational. The what? Eric asked. It creates multiple energy signatures of our ship. Makes it look like there's more than one Defiance. The Drakari won't know which is real and which is a ghost. Eric smiled for the first time since the attack. Outstanding work, Chief. The Defiance arrived at the edge of the Solari system 6 hours later. The once beautiful planets now had Drakari, warships in orbit. The crew watched in silence as they observed a Drakari cruiser forcing a Solari transport to land. Scan for any signs of resistance activity, Eric ordered. For hours, they listened to Drakari communications and scanned the planets. Finally, they detected unusual energy readings from one of the smaller moons. It could be a trap, Lieutenant. Commander Samantha Ross warned from tactical. Or it could be our first allies, Eric countered. Take us in, but keep the weapons hot and shields up. As they approached the moon, 3 small vessels appeared from behind an asteroid field. They took up attack positions around the Defiance. We're being hailed, Communications Officer Patty Miller announced. On screen, a Solari female appeared on the view screen. Her blue skin was marked with what looked like battle scars, and her large eyes regarded them with suspicion. Unknown vessel. You have entered Solari space. Identify yourselves, or be destroyed. Eric stepped forward. I am Captain Eric Winters of the Earth vessel USS Defiance. We seek an alliance against our common enemy, the Drakari Imperium. The Solari's expression didn't change. Humans, the Drakari speak of your weakness. They boast of how easily they defeated your ship and captured your diplomats. Eric's jaw tightened. They haven't seen what humans are truly capable of. We allowed them to think us weak. Now we will show them our strength. If you help us. Words, the Solari said dismissively. She gave an order in her language, and the 3 vessels charged their weapons. They're targeting us, Ross reported, her hand hovering over the weapons controls. Eric held up his hand. Hold fire. Commander Ross, target their engines only. Minimal force. Show them. Ross nodded and entered commands into her console. The key, Defiance's new weapons came to life. 3 precisely aimed energy pulses hit the Solari ships, disabling their engines without causing major damage. We could have destroyed you, Eric told the shocked Solari commander. But that's not why we're here. We want to free both our people, yours and mine. After a long pause, the Solari spoke. I am Chief Strategist Naravel of the Solari Resistance. Perhaps we should talk, Captain Winters. Hours later, Eric sat with Naravel in a hidden base inside the moon. The Solari leader studied the tactical plans on the display between them. Your ship is indeed impressive, she admitted. But the Drakari command station is heavily defended. Even your enhanced vessel cannot stand against their entire fleet. That's why we need more allies, Eric explained. Your knowledge of Drakari tactics combined with our technology gives us an advantage. Are there other species who would join us? Naravel considered this. The Threll were conquered just before us. Their crystalline bodies can refract energy weapons. And the Vespari, an insectoid race, still fight the Drakari in their home system. Can you contact them? Yes, she replied. But they will need proof that humans are worth allying with. Eric nodded. We'll give them proof. Back on the Defiance, Eric briefed his senior officers about the new alliance. The plan was taking shape. Gather more allies, then launch a coordinated attack on the Drakari command station to rescue the hostages. Lieutenant Ellis, what's the status of Ambassador Bennett and the diplomats? Eric asked. Jordan checked his tablet. According to intercepted communications, they're alive. The Drakari plan to display them publicly in 3 days, a show of human weakness to intimidate other species. Then we have 3 days to prepare, Eric said firmly. While the officers discussed tactics, the Defiance continued its transformation. Crew members trained on new systems. The science team worked with Solari engineers to integrate their technologies. In her quarters, Lieutenant Commander Ross studied Drakari battle formations. She had lost friends in the attack and was determined to make the Drakari pay. A knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. Enter. Captain Winters stepped inside. How are you holding up, Samantha? She straightened. Fine, sir. Just analyzing their weaknesses. Eric sat across from her. I know you want payback, we all do. But this mission isn't about revenge. It's about showing the Drakari a different kind of strength. Sir? They believe strength comes only from domination. We need to show them that true strength comes from cooperation, from restraint, from knowing when not to destroy your enemy. Ross looked skeptical. You think we can change their entire culture with one battle? No, Eric admitted. But we can plant a seed. The Drakari respect strength. Once they see ours, they might be willing to listen. Meanwhile, on the Drakari command station, Ambassador Olivia Bennett was taken from her cell to a large chamber. Supreme Commander Vexarn waited with several other high-ranking Drakari. Ambassador, Vexarn said with false politeness, in 3 days, you will address the representatives of 27 conquered worlds. You will tell them of humanity's weakness and inevitable submission to the Drakari Imperium. Olivia stood tall despite her fatigue. I will do no such thing. Vexarn moved closer, towering over her. You misunderstand. This is not a request. You misunderstand, Olivia replied calmly. Humans don't break easily, and we don't stay defeated. Vexarn laughed. Your ship fled. Your military is too far away to help. What hope do you cling to? Olivia smiled. The one thing you don't understand. About humans, Commander, we make friends everywhere we go. A fleet of ships gathered near the edge of the Praetor system, hidden behind a large gas giant. The USS Defiance floated at the center, now fully transformed into its combat configuration. Around it were ships of different designs, the sleek blue vessels of the Solari, the crystalline structures of the Threll that sparkled like diamonds in the starlight, and the organic-looking hive ships of the insectoid Vespari. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Eric Winters looked at the tactical display showing their combined forces. What had begun as a desperate rescue mission had grown into something more, the first multi-species alliance against Drakari tyranny. "All ships report ready, Captain," Commander Lisa Wright announced. Eric nodded. "Open a channel to all Allied vessels." When the communication link was established, Eric stood tall and addressed the coalition fleet. "Today we face an enemy that understands only one kind of strength. The Drakari believe that power comes from conquest and submission. Together we will show them a different kind of strength, one born from cooperation and mutual respect." He paused, looking at each of his senior officers. "Our primary objective is to rescue our captured diplomats and any others being held prisoner. Our secondary objective is to disable, not destroy, the Drakari command capabilities. We want them to remember this day not as a massacre, but as the moment they learned there are limits to their power." Chief Strategist Naravel of the Solari spoke from her vessel. "The Drakari will not show mercy. Why should we?" "Because we're better than them," Eric replied simply. "All ships move into position. Begin Phase 1. The fleet split into 3 groups as planned. The smallest group, led by a Solari scout ship, approached the Drakari command station openly. As expected, they were immediately challenged by Drakari patrol ships. "Incoming transmission from the Drakari flagship," Communications Officer Patty Miller reported. "On screen," Eric ordered. Supreme Commander Vexarn appeared, his yellow eyes widening slightly at the sight of Captain Winters. "The human returns. And with what? A few small vessels piloted by races we have already defeated?" Eric's expression remained neutral. "We've come for our people, Commander. Release Ambassador Bennett and the diplomatic team, and we'll leave peacefully." Vexarn laughed. "You are either brave or foolish, human. Your ship barely escaped our first encounter. Do you think these allies will make a difference?" Last chance, Commander, release our people. "I think not," Vexarn snarled. "Your ambassador is scheduled to make her submission speech in 1 hour. Perhaps we'll add your crew to the display." He gave orders in the Drakari language, and the screen went dark. "Drakari vessels moving to intercept," Lieutenant Commander Samantha Ross reported from Tactical. "They're only sending a small detachment. 5 warships." Eric smiled. "They still underestimate us. Exactly as planned. All ships. Execute Phase 2. The coalition ships that had been hiding behind the gas giant now moved into position. The Drakari, caught by surprise, scrambled to respond. "They're calling for reinforcements," Lieutenant Jordan Ellis reported, monitoring Drakari communications. "Now, Chief," Eric ordered. Chief Engineer Kyle Reeves, down in engineering, activated the Phantom drive. Suddenly, sensor readings showed 3 USS Defiance ships instead of 1. The Drakari targeting systems couldn't determine which was real. The battle began in earnest. The Drakari ships fired on the coalition fleet, but the Threll vessels used their crystalline hulls to absorb and reflect the energy weapons back at the Drakari. The Vespari ships broke into smaller units, swarming around the larger Drakari vessels, targeting their sensors and weapon systems with precision strikes. And the Defiance, now revealing its true capabilities, moved with shocking speed and firepower. Its advanced shields absorbed hits that would have crippled it before. Its weapons disabled Drakari systems without completely destroying their ships. On the Drakari command station, Ambassador Olivia Bennett felt the first tremors of weapons fire. She and the other diplomats exchanged hopeful glances. "They came back," one of the younger diplomats whispered. "Of course they did," Olivia said. She moved closer to the cell door, watching as the Drakari guards rushed past in panic. "Get ready. When the opportunity comes, we need to move quickly." For weeks, Olivia had been carefully observing the station's layout, guard rotations, and access panels. She had managed to secretly communicate with other captive species using a makeshift sign language. A network of resistance had formed right under the Drakari's noses. Back in the space battle, the Drakari fleet was in disarray. Their rigid command structure meant lower officers couldn't act without specific orders. When several command ships were disabled, their squadrons became uncoordinated. "Sir, we've opened a path to the command station," Commander Ross reported. "But it won't last long." Eric nodded. "Commander Wright, you have the bridge. Commander Ross, you're with me. Boarding party to Shuttle Bay 1. Minutes later, a specialized team led by Eric and Samantha launched from the Defiance. They wore advanced combat suits and carried weapons designed to incapacitate rather than kill. Their shuttle, using technology borrowed from the Solari, slipped through gaps in the Drakari defenses. "Remember," Eric told the team as they approached the station, "our priority is the hostages. Avoid casualties where possible." The shuttle docked with the command station at an emergency airlock. As the team breached the outer door, they were met with only light resistance. Most of the Drakari security forces had been sent to defend critical systems from the space battle. Using schematics provided by Naravel, whose people had been forced to help build the station, they moved quickly toward the detention area. Along the way, they encountered frightened station personnel who surrendered immediately, never having faced a direct invasion before. "The detention level is ahead, Lieutenant," Ellis said, checking his scanner. "Life signs indicate approximately 20 Drakari guards and multiple non-Drakari species." As they rounded the corner, they found not just guards but chaos. Ambassador Bennett had already led an uprising of prisoners. She stood in the corridor, using a Drakari shock baton to hold off a guard, while other, former prisoners and even some station workers fought alongside her. She spotted Captain Winters and, despite the situation, smiled. "You're late, Captain." "Traffic was heavy," Eric replied, raising his weapon and stunning the guard Bennett was fighting. "Ready to leave?" Olivia gestured to the diverse group of aliens around her. "Not just us. Everyone." Eric nodded. "The more the merrier. We have multiple extraction points set up. Commander Ross, get them to the shuttles." As they began to move the freed prisoners, a deep voice echoed from the end of the corridor. "Captain Winters." Everyone turned to see Supreme Commander Vexarn, standing there flanked by elite guards. His armor was scorched from battle, but his posture remained proud. "Did you truly believe you could invade my command station and escape?" The Drakari commander snarled. Eric stepped forward. "Actually, yes. Your forces are scattered. Your fleet is in disarray. For the first time, you're facing an enemy that fights as one, many species united against your tyranny." Vexarn drew his weapon. "Then you will die as one." Supreme Commander Vexarn and his elite guards aimed their weapons at Captain Eric Winters and the rescue team. The corridor fell silent as both sides faced each other. Behind Eric, Ambassador Olivia Bennett and the freed prisoners watched nervously. "Your fleet is losing, Commander," Eric said calmly. "Look at your own battle reports." Vexarn's yellow eyes narrowed. "The Drakari do not surrender. We have conquered hundreds of worlds. We will not be defeated by a coalition of weaklings led by a species we had never heard of until days ago." "That's your first mistake," Eric replied, "thinking that being unknown means being weak." Lieutenant Commander Samantha Ross stepped forward, her weapon ready. "Sir, we need to get the ambassador and the others to the shuttles." Before Eric could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. A voice announced in the Drakari language that critical systems were failing. "What have you done?" Vexarn demanded. Eric smiled. "Nothing yet. But you should know that while we've been talking, Solari engineers have been accessing your main computer core. They're quite good with your technology, having been forced to build much of it." On cue, the lights in the corridor flickered. The Drakari guards looked around in confusion. "You have a choice," Eric continued. "Continue this fight and lose everything, or stand down and learn a new way forward." Vexarn roared in anger and fired his weapon. The energy blast would have hit Eric directly if Ambassador Bennett hadn't pushed him aside. The shot missed both of them by inches. Ross and the security team returned fire. Their weapons were set to stun, not kill. Two of the Drakari guards fell unconscious, but Vexarn's armor absorbed the blasts. Take the prisoners to the shuttles, Eric ordered. I'll handle this. As Ross led the freed captives away, Eric faced Vexarn alone. The Drakari commander threw aside his energy weapon and drew a ceremonial blade from his armor. Let us settle. This is warriors, Vexarn challenged. Eric drew his own combat knife. Despite the difference in their size, Vexarn stood nearly 2 feet taller. He stepped forward without hesitation. They circled each other in the corridor. Vexarn attacked. First, his blade slicing through the air with surprising speed for his size. Eric dodged, using his smaller stature and quicker reflexes to his advantage. The Drakari have ruled through fear for centuries, Vexarn said as they fought. It is the natural order. The strong command, the weak obey. Eric deflected another strike. There's more than one kind of strength. Their blades clashed again and again. Vexarn's greater power was matched by Eric's agility. Neither could gain a clear advantage. Your ship, Vexarn said between strikes. It was not what it appeared to be. Neither was our mission, Eric replied, narrowly avoiding a slash to his arm. We wanted peaceful contact. You chose conflict. Deception is not strength, Vexarn roared. No, Eric agreed. But adaptation is. In a swift move, Eric feinted left, then dropped and swept Vexarn's legs. The surprised Drakari commander fell hard. Before he could recover, Eric kicked the blade from his hand and pressed his own knife to Vexarn's throat. For a moment, neither moved. Then Vexarn spoke, his voice softer than before. Finish it, human. It is the warrior's way. Eric stepped back and lowered his weapon. No, that's your way, not mine. He tapped his communication device. Winters to Defiance. 2 to beam up from. My location. Vexarn's eyes widened in shock as both he and Eric disappeared in a shimmer of light. They rematerialized on the Defiance's bridge. Vexarn looked around in astonishment at the advanced technology and the diverse crew. Humans working alongside Solari and representatives from other species. Commander Lisa Wright approached. Sir, all shuttles have cleared the station. Ambassador, Bennett and all rescued prisoners are safe. And the battle? Eric asked. Most Drakari vessels have been disabled or have withdrawn. The command station is under our control. Vexarn sank to his knees, the reality of defeat finally hitting him. How did inferior beings defeat the Drakari? Eric gestured to the view screen, which showed the coalition fleet working together to secure the area. Because we're not inferior, we're just different, and we don't fight alone. Hours later, representatives from all coalition species gathered in the Defiance's conference room. Ambassador Bennett, despite her ordeal, had insisted on attending. She sat next to Captain Winters as they faced Vexarn and several Drakari officers who had been captured. The terms are simple, Olivia said firmly. The Drakari Imperium will release all captive species and withdraw from their territories. In return, we will not destroy your civilization. Vexarn looked at the assembled representatives. And if we refuse? Chief Strategist Naravel of the Solari stepped forward. Then what remains of your fleet will be hunted down. Your empire will fall piece by piece. The choice is yours. One of the Drakari officers whispered to Vexarn, who nodded slowly. We accept your terms, Vexarn said, each word clearly difficult for him. But know this. The Drakari will rebuild. We will remember this defeat. I hope you do, Eric replied. Remember not just that you were defeated, but how and why. Remember that true strength comes in many forms, Olivia added. And remember that humans and our allies don't seek to conquer. We seek cooperation. Your place in the galaxy isn't threatened if you're willing to live in peace. After the Drakari were escorted out, the coalition representatives broke into excited discussion. In just days, they had accomplished what none thought possible. They had broken the Drakari's hold on the sector. As the meeting concluded, Eric and Olivia stood by the view screen, watching as ships from newly freed worlds joined the coalition fleet. What do you think they'll do? Olivia asked quietly. The Drakari, I mean. Eric considered the question. They'll adapt, just like we did. It might take time, but they've seen another way now. And us? What will humanity do with this new alliance we've built? Eric smiled. That's your department, Ambassador. But I think we've proven that humanity has a place out here among the stars. 1 week later, the USS Defiance led a procession of ships from 27 worlds. The Drakari Imperium had kept its word, withdrawing from conquered territories and releasing their subjugated populations. On the bridge, Captain Winters sat in the command chair, watching as the diverse fleet moved in perfect formation. What had begun as a diplomatic mission had transformed into the birth of a new interstellar alliance. Lieutenant Commander Ross took her position at Tactical. Where to next, Captain? Eric looked at the star map, at the countless unexplored systems, waiting for them. Everywhere, Commander. We've got a lot of friends to make out there. As the Defiance jumped to its next destination, word spread throughout the galaxy of the strange new species called humans who had broken the Drakari, not through overwhelming force but through cooperation, adaptation, and a different kind of strength that the Drakari had never understood until now.